Hey everybody, John with Vermont Homesteader, and today I'm going to try making some sourdough bread. For the last 7 days I've been making a sourdough starter, and let's see, there it is. There were a ton of bubbles in it, but I've been moving it. I moved it from its nice warm spot by the wood stove, and when I moved it and I put it down on the counter, you can see some bubbles. There were a ton more bubbles here. The bubbles, you could actually see the bubbles, the air bubbles moving up through this little water layer. But there were a lot more bubbles. So we're going to feed this and we're going to warm it. Well, first we have to discard half of it, and then we're going to feed it, and we're going to put it by the wood stove again, and it's going to double in size. So before I feed, well, once I feed it, I'm gonna move this tape so we can see the level, and then when I come back, you'll see that it's probably up here someplace, because it's gonna like double in size. But you'll also see more bubbles after I've fed it. But yeah, and there were a lot more bubbles. But anyway, I've been working on this for the last 7 days. And it's ready. I'm pretty sure it's ready. We'll do a test here in a little bit after we feed it. You can actually see bubbles. Like this bubble just popped up from down here, and that's what's been happening. The bubbles have been making their way up. But we'll test it. I'll show you how to test it. This is my first attempt at sourdough bread, so no real guarantees on how it's going to come out. I think the starter's done really well. You can smell the fermentation in it. Like I said, there was lots of bubbles. So we're gonna use this, and we're gonna try and make a recipe. I got a recipe offline. I tweaked it after watching several YouTube videos, and we're gonna see if we can get a sourdough bread. Should make 2 loaves worth, and we're gonna see if we can get it to rise and we can get it to bake how it should. So the first thing with this starter is I'm going to take the top off. It's just a piece of cheesecloth with a rubber band. I'm going to mix it back up because I have to discard half of it. Now, you discard because you then have to add equal amounts of flour and water back in to feed it. I hate wasting stuff. This is one of the few times you waste it. When I make something. But in the future, when I'm all done making the bread, I'll take my starter, I'll feed it again, and then I'll put the starter in the fridge for the next time I cook. And then you just have to discard once a week and feed it once a week. When I make those discards, once it's done fermenting and it's a good starter, those discards I will use to make English muffins, crackers, other smaller items that aren't bread. So I mixed it up, and there are, let's see how many quarts we have here. That's not quarts. Let's take the tape off. And we have just shy of 4 quarts. So we're going to discard this down to 1.5 quarts. Okay, about 1.5 quarts. So now what we do, I'm going to get this off me. We are going to take 1.5 quarts of organic wheat flour. 1.5 cups, not quarts. 1.5 cups. Sorry, don't put 1.5 quarts in there. It's 1.5 quarts in here. 1.5 cups of wheat flour in here. I'm gonna get all this in here. Sorry, I I got my tea kettle going. You might hear it in the background. Turn that off. Ready to have some tea on this negative 12 degree morning. That's what it was while it was still dark, about 5 a.m. when I got up. Started getting ready for the day, making kids their breakfast sandwiches, and making Sarah some coffee. I made her a sausage patty too, venison sausage that we shoot our own deer, and we make, one of the things we make is venison sausage out of it. It's really good stuff. So then we're gonna get, you want to have warm water, not piping hot, definitely above room temperature. Warm water, 1.5 cups of water to match the 1.5 cups of whole wheat organic flour that we just put in. I'm going to get that in there, and then we're going to mix. We're going to get it all mixed in really well. You don't want any dry flour in here. You want to get it really mixed up well. You want to get the water, the new flour, and the starter all mixed in. So we're going to do this for a little bit. Gonna scrape the sides, gonna scrape the bottom, scrape off the fork a couple times because there's a lot of moist flour on there now. We want to get it mixed up really well. Want that fermentation process to keep going. Okay, I think we're there. Now I'm going to mark my fluid level. With the tape. So it's hard to see. You can see it when you get it in the light, and you can see it in the video. That's where the fluid level is. And then we're going to put the cheesecloth back on it. And the rubber band. And that's how you make starter. You start off, some people do just a cup, some people do 2 cups. I'm at 1.5 cups of flour and then 1.5 cups of water. And what you just do is you do that every day, stir it up real good, put it in a warm area. You want it to be about 70-75 degrees by my wood stove. It's good for that. And then each day for 7 days, you discard half of your starter. So you get it back down to 1.5 cups, and then you add another 1.5 cups of flour and 1.5 cups of water. You do that every day for 7 days, and your starter should get bubbly. Should have that not floury smell, but a fermented smell. And then you'll have your starter that you can make sourdough bread with. So I'm gonna go get this by the wood stove. I'll shoot some video once it's about doubled in size, which it should after being there for about a half hour. And then we're gonna take our sourdough starter and we're gonna make sourdough bread. See you soon. So while I'm waiting for the sourdough starter to consume what I fed it, I figured I'd show you some of the stuff that I'm going to have here. Organic whole wheat flour. I got some metal bowls and some glass bowls. I've got a scale because everything's measured out in grams. Have some compostable, unbleached parchment paper, which we'll need. some measuring cups, a 2 cup and a 1 cup, though any size will work, a rolling pin, a spatula scraper. So we're gonna wait for that sourdough starter to rise, to feed and ferment, and then we'll start making our sourdough bread. And there it goes, it's starting to grow. It's up about an inch, and it'll get higher than that. It'll get up another probably 2 inches higher than that before it's all done. And here we go. Look at that. The top of the tape is where it was after I fed the starter, and now it's up here. It's grown a lot. If I spin it, you can also see bubbles throughout, which is what you want to see. That's that fermentation process. It's looking good. So I think we're gonna start making our sourdough bread here. We have our starter. We're gonna put water in here, and we're gonna see if the starter passes the float test. So the float test is to take water, take a teaspoon of the starter, put it in the water, and see if it floats. It's floating. Starter's ready. So I've turned the scale on and put that on there at 613 grams. And we're going to hit tare, which brings it to 0. And then we're going to get 100 grams of our starter. A little too much. Just barely a little too much. Okay. It's 105 grams, but I'm going to lose some on the edge of the measuring cup, so we're going to put that in here. Get as much of it out as possible. Smells like cooked bread already. Okay, now we need 375 grams of water. Too much.
We built a tool with Llama, that is open source AI model, to help radiologists double check their diagnoses. We're able to collaborate with universities to further radiology education and catch more errors.
Learn how others are building
Perfect.
Meta's free open source AI at AI.net.
Mix your water and your starter. Next, we're going to need 12 grams of sea salt and 500 grams of flour. So for actually cooking the bread, for the starter, let's go back. For the starter, we used whole wheat flour for the 7 days. For actually cooking the bread, we're using organic all-purpose flour, and we need 500 grams. Oh, there's 300. Here's another 200. Now we need 12 grams of uniodized salt. We have our 12 grams of salt. Sea salt or uniodized salt is what you want. And then we're going to mix really well. You want to mix it until it's fully blended and sticky. So we're going to be here a few minutes. And I'll come back when I've got it done. Okay, so I've got it all mixed. Just to show you, this is what it looks like. It's sticky, but it's fully mixed. And what you want to do now is you want to take a damp, wet, not wet, damp. So you want to get it wet with warm water, and you want it to just be damp. You want to wring it out really well and have it be damp. Cover this flour and water mixture, the bread dough, and then we're going to put it by the wood stove and leave it covered for 1 hour. And there it is. It's the dough. You can see it underneath, the bread dough in the bowl, covered with the damp cloth. And it's by the wood stove. You want it to be 70 to 75 degrees, just like the starter. And you want to leave it there for an hour. So that's what we're going to do. And then we'll come back and then I'll show you what to do next. Hey everybody, so it's been an hour. We got our bread dough in here. And next thing we got to do is lifts and folds. Basically, you just reach in at the edge, and you get underneath and you fold it in, and then you just turn the bowl and you do the same thing. And you want to do this 20 times, so 4 times each time you go around the bowl, and you're bringing the dough into the middle, and it kind of over time makes a dough ball. After you do it 20 times, you then put the bread dough back by the heat of the wood stove for me, or in an oven at the lowest setting you have, or someplace else where it's about 70 degrees. And you want to go through this process of lift and folds for 4 times. And you can see it's making a dough ball. It's making a dough ball. And what you're doing is you're helping along the fermentation process by doing this. It's actually a really, really important step of making sourdough bread. And you do not want to skip it. If you do more than 20 times, that's okay. I actually lost count this time around, but I gotta be getting close. And when you get to the end, just lift and fold it so it ends up in the middle of the bowl. And then cover it back up. Put it back by the warm spot. Hey everyone, so this is the 4th time that I'm going to be doing this. I only videotaped the second and now the fourth. The first and the third I did it off camera. So we're gonna again take the dough and we're gonna lift and fold 20 times or so. And then we're gonna put it in this other bowl that I pre-floured. And then it's gonna sit by the wood stove overnight. And tomorrow we're gonna make it into a round ball, let it rise a little bit, and then we're gonna bake it. Just lift and fold 20 times or even more than that is fine. It's pretty much a ball now, but there's some little divots in it when you lift and fold it, and you're gonna make those go away tomorrow. But for tonight, it's just gonna sit by the wood stove overnight and rise. Just cover it and let it rise overnight. And that's it. That's it for today. So I'll see y'all back here tomorrow, and we'll do what we need to do tomorrow. Make it into a nice ball. Maybe put a few designs in it, and then we'll get baking. See you tomorrow. Hey everybody. It is the next morning, and look at our sourdough. Holy smokes. Just exploded overnight sitting by the wood stove. So what we need to do now, make sure the table's clean. We're going to take some flour and just get it all over the table. So this won't stick. And I'm probably gonna need a scraper. And we're gonna put this onto the flour. It's gonna be very sticky still. To make this into a ball. Have to work it into a ball. Probably did not put enough flour down. Go. whatever air exposed areas, just work them in. There we go. Now we got a nice ball going. So you want to get this into a ball with smooth, unbroken surfaces. Which is not super easy to do. But wow, that really rose. I don't know if you remember in the video going back, it basically just covered the bottom of that bowl and it rose, I don't know, that's got to be 4 inches at least, and it was about to overflow out the top. Gotta try and somehow smooth this out. I don't know how I'm supposed to do that. Once I get it as smoothed out a ball as possible, then I think I gotta get it off the table to do that. It's gonna go in the fridge for like 4 hours, and that is supposed to slow the fermentation process down. And then it's going to go back by the wood stove for another 4 hours. And then we're going to score it and bake it. It's as good a ball as it's going to get into. And now we're going to go put this in the fridge for 4 hours, and then I'll come back out and I'll show you what we're going to do. Well, we're just going to put it under the heat after, not heat, but by the wood stove at about 70 degrees for 4 hours, and then I'll be back to show you what we're going to do with this big dough ball before we bake it. So I've had the sourdough bread dough in the fridge for 4 hours, and now we're putting it back by the wood stove again. And I'm going to cover it up, and we're going to let it sit here for probably 3 hours, maybe 4, and then we're going to bake it. Okay everyone, so the dough rose last night. I showed you that, and it was up to the very top of the bowl. And I showed you how I took it out and made it into a ball. And then we put it back in the bowl and we put it in the refrigerator for 4 hours. And it got really small again. It was basically just in the bottom of the bowl. And then for 4 hours I put it back in the bowl or left it in the bowl, but put it back by the wood stove. And it's risen again. So now we're just gonna lightly coat it with some flour that I dumped out onto this parchment paper, because we're going to need the parchment paper. We're going to just lightly coat it, and then we're going to slowly dump it onto this parchment paper. And we're going to coat it some more. Try and bring it back into a ball again. Get it coated. You really want to try and get it into a ball. Keep putting, you can use rice flour, you can use regular flour, all-purpose flour. Just keep slightly coating it with flour. Get it back into as best a ball as you can. to try and pinch everything together up top here. Kind of work it until it's as much a ball as you can get it. Now you can bake this on a flat baking sheet if you want. I'm gonna bake it in this bowl because I want it to have a rounder shape. But I guess you could put it in a rectangular pan as well, so it looks like a loaf of bread. I'm going to make it so it's a round bread. I got the oven preheating at 450. And I'm going to cook it right in this parchment paper. So it's preheating at 450. And what we're going to do is we're going to bake it first covered. I'm going to get a piece of aluminum foil and cover it for 25 to 30 minutes. And then you're going to cook it for another 25 minutes uncovered. Now, lots of people like to make different designs. Probably I'm just going to make a slice here in it. Not a deep slice, but just a slice. And then probably just make some marks. You can make any kind of design you want. Cover it. The preheat just ended. So the oven's ready to go. This is a Pyrex glass bowl, so shouldn't break. We're going to get this in the oven, and I'll be back in about 50 minutes, hopefully with a finished product. When I uncovered it, I decided to put it on a flat cookie sheet with the parchment paper. I was a little concerned that the bowl might have been preventing it from cooking through the middle. But it has risen nicely. It looks pretty good, and it looks like it has about 20 minutes left here uncovered, and we'll see how it goes. It's been 30 minutes uncovered. Boy, I wish you could smell it. Look at that. That looks amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to get it off this tray and onto the rack. And we're going to let it cool on the rack. And then in a little bit we'll try it out and see how it tastes. But boy, it's looking really good. I guess the only question is going to be is if it's done inside. Let's see. Kind of hate to do it, but oh, it's got a nice crust. Yes, it does. And there's no wet dough on the inside, so I think we've got a good sourdough bread here. I'll shoot some more video when we crack it open in a few minutes after we let it cool down a little bit. See you soon. So it's all done. And we're going to cut it open. It's got a nice crust to it, like a sourdough is supposed to. Oh, it looks really good inside. Look at that. Okay. I think we had a success. I'll probably try this again. I'm going to cut a slice and have some. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and share. Vermont Homesteader.